All right, I am all finished sewing my darts on both the front and back pieces. They turned out pretty good, and I think I might just do a finger press instead of using an iron on this. You can do an iron, just make sure you use a pressing cloth. This felt does have some polyester in it, so there is a potential for it to melt and make a mess out of your iron, and then poor little bear won't have a cute face anymore. He'll be all melted. So the next step here is to put each piece, we're going to put them wrong sides together. These bears, the whip stitch is done on the outside of the bear. So there's the front and the back, or vice versa. So what I want to do is I'm going to do some basting now. We're going to baste across the arms and around the head. And I've got some black thread here, double, and I'm just gonna go across the arms first, try to match up the little armpits and around the neck. And if you find that your pieces are a little bit different than the front's different from the back, just you can just trim. These ones look pretty good. You could just give the felt a trim so that they are matching. And you want to do that because you're stitching, when you do the whip stitch, if the edges aren't even, the stitching won't be even, and you might end up having one of the seams pull out because you might be 1 millimeter in the front and 1.5 in the back, or 2 in the back, but you want to try to be consistent on the front and the back. And I think you can see on this arm, I'll finish this up here, that this arm is a little different than the other. So I'll just take my scissors and I'm going to tidy up the edge of the bottom one there. You can do this now or you can do it a bit later, but before you do your stitching for sure. I think that's pretty good. There we go. So that's the arms, and now we'll re-knot and do around the head. So in your kit, I have given you some white number 12 DMC that you can use for basting. I'm using black because it's easy to see in this video. So now I'm going to go around the head. I'm not going to go too close to the edge, but I want to make sure my darts match. The reason why I don't want to go too close to the edge is when we insert the ears, you need to have some space in between the layers that you can insert the ear. So here's my little ear, and I'll show you what I mean. Flatten them out. So the ear placement is going to be between the two head pieces, and you want to line up the little pleat with the one dart like that. So this is kind of why you want to leave a little bit of space, because you have to put about 3 millimeters of the ear inside of the head. So I'll just keep going around. If your darts don't quite match from front to back, it's okay. This one looks like he's going to be a tiny bit off. It could be that I just made a bit of a wider stitch when I was doing the darts. Instead of doing my 1.5 to 1 to 2, I may have gone a little bit wider, which goes back to consistency. The more consistent you are with your stitches, the better the result. But my bears, they're all a little bit wonky in places here and there. That's okay. They're still cute. All right, basting is done. The next step is to do our whip stitch. So there's our little head, all done, basting wise. So now we're going to do whip stitch, and we're going to start sort of over under the arm here. It looks like there's a bit of a wow on this guy here too, so I'm going to just give that a bit of a trim. Make him nice and tidy. So I'm going to start over here. It's about 1 inch on the underside of his arm, around his hand and up to the top of his head here. And I'm going to stop about 1 centimeter away from the second dart, and then I'll show you how to insert the ear when I'm finished that part. So I'm just going to start my whip stitch, and I've got my thread here, double strands, and I've tied a knot at the end of my thread. So I'm just going to start in here about 1 inch in, and then stick when you pull the knot, just pull the knot so that it's on the inside, and then start your whip stitch. And just keep your consistency with your distance between your stitches and your length, and keep them perpendicular to the felt edge. All right, I have done my whip stitch up to about 1 centimeter before the second dart, and I'm going to show you how to insert the ear. So we'll take one of the ears. This is the front, of course, with a little fold, and the back's got the little bump on it. I'm going to just finger press that as flat as I can, get it, and then I'm going to separate the front and the back pieces, and I'm going to put the ear in about 3 millimeters, so that, and the placement would be so that the little ear fold is right where that dart is. Now I'm going to continue my whip stitch, making sure that I grab the front and the back, making sure that I grab the front and the back. Do one more, but the second one, this one here, I'm going to just kind of go in on the back here, but a tiny bit over. And it's just going to pull that ear in on the side right there. Now to go back in, I'm going to go through the ear, to the back side, and then down my 2 millimeter length or stitch width. And I'm going to do that across the ear here. I think I made that one a bit wide. So we'll just take it out and fix him up. And then, oh, his ear's coming out here. Gotta rethread. Just a sec. Okay, I'm back now. I'll reposition his little ear here, making sure that it's tucked between the two pieces of front and back. And I'm going to shorten that stitch up a little bit because I had the other one a bit on the long side. Put there, pull through, and then go through the back and the front again. So what I'm trying to do here is grab all 3 layers of fabric, of felt. But because the ear's in the way, you kind of have to put the needle through the ear. This is instead of wrapping it around. Now, I'm not sure if you'll notice, but the stitching here looks a little rough and a little bumpy. That's okay. When we start stuffing the bear, the seams will stretch a little bit, and that will become a lot smoother than it is right now. All right, I'll keep going here. 2 millimeters down through the back and through the front. And then through the ear and around. So just keep going until the ear is completely inside. It's a bit fiddly. You just have to kind of keep sticking them back in there. And give it a little pull, tighten up your stitches. That one wasn't very good, but I'm having a hard time with the trying to watch my video and manage the bear all at the same time, stitch the bear at the same time. There, now I think we can go back to our regular stitching. Yeah, I think that's okay. There, appears the ear is on. So I'm going to continue on with the second ear and then finish up my whip stitch around the corner here. All right, I have finished the whip stitch from one of the underarms to the other side of the underarm here, and I have removed my basting stitches. So now we're going to stuff our little fella here. I've got some more roving, and what you want to do is just pull it apart into tiny pieces. This keeps our bear from being lumpy, and also it makes it easier to stuff the bear because the little hole here in his neck is quite small. So I'm going to use this blunt end of the skewer to push the roving into the head. These wooden skewers are awesome tools. They're cheap, recyclable, or I guess compostable because they're made out of wood. And they have a pointy end and then the non-pointy end. And you can do a really good job with these manipulating the roving in the head to get a really good shape. When you're filling the head, just make sure that you don't put too much pressure on the neck seams here. It will become a bit of a pressure point and you might end up stretching them a bit more than you'd like to. So the first thing I'm going to do is go in here and pop open the head, do the separate pieces so they're not stuck together, just to help get the wool in there. I'm going to take a little piece of the roving, stick it here, and with the blunt end of the skewer, I'm just going to shove it inside like that. Take another piece and do the same thing. You'll be amazed at how much of the roving will fit in his little head. It'll be a lot. He's starting to get some shape. That's the back, that's the front. So I'm just gonna kind of want him to have a round head, so we're gonna squeeze him a little bit. Put some more in there, definitely not enough yet. Just keep going, and when you think you've got enough, you could probably add more. Okay, so now it's pretty good. So I'm going to put the pointy end in now and decide where the front is. And I kind of like him to have a bit more of a nose. You see how he's got a bit of a round head, but I'm pushing the roving towards the front and squeezing it with my hand. You can do this until you get a shape that's pleasing to you. I could put more in here. All right, there we go. Squeeze that a couple more times. There's the front of his face. I'm gonna kind of squeeze that some more. I think that looks pretty good. So now if you take his little muzzle, again, we'll put this on later, but just to position, and if you squeeze it just a tiny bit, you can kind of see how he's gonna look when he's finished. It'll be pretty cute. See his little profile there, it's not too bad. All right, so I think that's pretty good for the head stuffing. And now we're going to insert his bones, his pipe cleaners. So I decided earlier that the neck was a bit long, so I folded it over. And what I want to do now is take the pointy end of my skewer and I want to kind of make a bit of a hole inside the roving. So it's a bit tricky, but you can twist it and Try to get a bit of a hole in there. We're going to be stuffing around it anyway later, so it's not essential that it has a big hole. I'm going to stick that in there. And we're going to put his arms in there. It's like putting a little jacket on a little child, putting their sleeves and arms in the sleeves. And put this side in here, like that. I think the measurements are pretty good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to baste again, and we're going to baste around the whole body of the bear. Right from one underarm all the way around the legs, and then back up to the other arm. And when I'm done that, I will be back and I'll show you what's next.